What's up, guys? Welcome to a new episode of the ynggpodcast. We have a blockbuster deal to break down here. So, the Pittsburgh Penguins finally trade Jake Guentzel, 25% retained, along with Ty Smith to the Carolina Hurricanes in exchange for Michael Bunting, Ville Koivunen, Vasily Ponomarev, and Cruz Lucius, as well as Carolina's first round pick in 2024, which has a condition tied to it, and Carolina's fifth round pick in 2025, which also has a condition to it. So the condition on the fifth round pick in 2024 in this deal is that if the Carolina Hurricanes do not win the Stanley Cup this year, the Penguins will not receive this pick. In terms of the first round pick, the condition is that if Carolina does not make the Stanley Cup final in 2024, the Pens will instead receive Philadelphia's second round pick in 2024, previously acquired by Carolina. And in terms of this deal, the Carolina's Hurricanes obviously get themselves a prolific goal scorer, one of the best goal scorers in the league. And, this is a team that everyone's been saying that they've always lacked a superstar presence on their roster, but they've always been a very good team. And as you can see here, you know, Svechnikov, Aho, Teravainen, Nikash, Jarvis. Those are all notable names on this roster that have made a significant impact in the last couple of seasons. Obviously, they have guys like Stefan Noesen and Jesperi Kotkaniemi, Jordan Stahl, Martinuk, that obviously has helped this team in the regular season and the playoffs, but they were missing that most important part, which was a prolific goal scorer. And that's what they get in terms of Jake Guentzel. Obviously, they also get Ty Smith, who was part of the Marino trade a couple years ago between the New Jersey Devils and Pittsburgh Penguins, and that did not work out at all. Ty Smith saw himself placed on waivers a couple of times, never got claimed, so they just had to get rid of him. He needed a change of scenery, and in terms of the prospects that Pittsburgh gets, well, they're a team that desperately needs to rebuild. They don't have that many prospects in their pipeline that would make a significant difference and help them with their future, or even give them any success in their future. So slowly but surely, it seems like Kyle Dubas is gonna rebuild the Pittsburgh Penguins prospect pool. And just a little side note before we head to Zach's analysis, Koivunen as having a huge season in Finland. He's tied for team scoring, leading with Carpet with 55 points in 57 games. He's only 20 years old. And Lucius is NCAA Wisconsin's top scorer with 31 goals in 32 games. So the Penguins are getting some skill in their pipeline, which they desperately need. So, Zach, the floor is yours.
Well, Carolina is getting exactly that. They're getting a goal scorer. I think the knock on Jake Guentzel is people are talking about an uncertainty in the based on the fact that he's been on Sidney Crosby, the legendary Sidney Crosby's wing for the most part of his career, being a consistent 30 goal scorer. A lot of people want to attribute those kind of numbers to him being alongside Sid the Kid. But, my takeaway is that if you're able to play with Sid the Kid, it means you have something to offer, and you could kind of play up to his level. And I think that's what Jay Guentzel has been able to do. And I just like to throw out a quote from the Penguins GM Cal Dubas on how much it means to lose a player of his stature. He said that the decision to trade Jay Guentzel with his contract set to expire this offseason was one of the most difficult decisions that I've had to make in my time in management. And then he talks about his effect on the organization and the community, and insinuating that he's going to be somebody who's going to be missed and one of the cornerstone pieces of this group, as well as the group who won the cup in 2017. So Carolina could be very happy about getting a player of his stature. I think he's going to fit right into their mix perfectly. He's gonna add a great 5-on-5 scoring option to a team that last season, and especially in the postseason last year, we're lacking some scoring in critical times of games. He's gonna definitely help with that. And from Pittsburgh's end, it's definitely going to lose a player like him, like I've mentioned before, because of all of his qualities. And like you said, they're going to be replenishing their pipeline a little bit. I just wanted to talk about Ville Koivunen, who has been in the SM Liga, and as well as a quick stint with the Chicago Wolves in the A last year. He's been quite productive this year with 55 points in 57 games. He was a second round pick in the 2021 draft. Um, Still 20 years of age. He is the most interesting prospect, I would say, from that pool. Second, probably being Mr. Cruz Lucius, the yet to sign his entry level contract. Perennial Wisconsin college hockey player with some, we see it on the screen here, with some very, very decent numbers. So those are two B-level prospects that they're getting, as well as Vasily Ponomarev, who is a decent prospect himself as well. Um, did Pittsburgh get the right return for Guentzel? Look, they got um, a potential first round pick that is most likely going to be a second, and they got a ton of prospects. Considering the fact that we're Thursday night with the trade deadline window being on Friday, I think this is the best offer they could have got for a guy who's not re-signing. So I wouldn't be, if I'm Cal Dubas and their management over there, I wouldn't be too upset about the haul that they got for him, and I'd actually be pretty happy about it.
Yeah, and just taking a look at Jay Gensel in terms of where he would fit in the Carolina Hurricanes lineup, I think he would definitely be playing top line minutes with Svechnikov, Aho, and he would be on the right side taking Teravainen's place. Teravainen would move down in the lineup. I don't know if you agree with that, or maybe he finds himself on the second line and you have Jack Jury, Nikash, and Gensel. Um, but he's definitely gonna be playing in the top six. This is a guy who's a power play merchant. He would definitely be given power play minutes. It's for me, it's a no brainer that Stefan Nolson would be the one off the first power play unit, and they would replace him with Gensel. I know that Carolina usually does not trade for rentals; they like guys with term. So there was discussions at one point. You know, are they going to get Jake Gensel, try to sign him to a contract extension? I believe that they will, if obviously it works out. But that's a conversation they're probably going to have during the offseason, depending on the impact he has on the Carolina Hurricanes playoff run and how he does in these remaining last couple of season games as well. And there's one other piece that we haven't spoken about yet, and that is Michael Bunting. So he was removed out of the lineup for trade related reasons, same reasons as Jake Gensel. And what are your thoughts essentially on Michael Bunting and where he would fit in the Pittsburgh Penguins?
Well, I think he's somebody who needs to play with highly skilled line mates. He's kind of a facilitator. He's a good passer of the puck. He's a high energy guy who is, like I said, able to play with skilled players. I wouldn't be surprised if they throw him on a line with Sidney Crosby and Ricardo Raquel. Looking at it right now, I don't see it particularly as a fit with Riley Smith on his wing. So I'd like to see him Michael Bunting on that first line. He's going to add a little bit of a spark and some energy there as well. Probably be the net front guy. So I like that fit. And adding to what you had said before, I think in terms of the extension for Gensel, I don't think they make this trade unless they have almost a guarantee on the extension. I know there's been different sides of things on Twitter saying, some reports saying that contract negotiations weren't being able weren't facilitated before the deal. But then the fact that they gave away all of those assets makes you believe that Carolina want this guy to be a part of their core. This is not just a short term move for this season. I think he'll definitely get a multi-year deal at some point, and it'll be kind of criminal towards that organization if they didn't.
Yeah, and the sad part about this deal is that Michael Bunting just signed a contract with the Carolina Hurricanes during the offseason, and
Yeah,
he has 36 points in 60 games, but there was a lot of people saying that he just wasn't a good fit for the Carolina Hurricanes, which is why he was a part of this deal. He needed a change of scenery, and I remember when he started off with the Toronto Maple Leafs, he was in the running for the Calder for, rookie of the year. Had 63 points in 79 games, 23 goals and 40 assists, and then even
yeah,
the
playing with
following
Austin
season.
Matthews, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that obviously, helped his numbers offensively. The following year, basically a 50-point season in 82 games, scores, over 20 goals once again. So, they let him walk after Toronto. They don't want to resign him. They chose to go another route and sign guys like Max Domi and Tyler Bertuzzi. And Carolina took the chance on Michael Bunting, and it didn't work out. He's still a very good hockey player, for a guy who
But it
was
was
drafted in
somewhat,
the fourth
yeah.
round,
Hmm.
to be a 20 goal scorer. I think that's fantastic. And, he bloomed later on in in his career. So like he was a late bloomer, which is, perfectly fine because, he was still, this to be a fourth, round pick and to be a 20 goal scorer, you don't see that every day. So honestly, despite who he was playing with, he was still able to accomplish, over 50 points in two consecutive seasons. And, they're going to get a 50-point guy essentially, the Pittsburgh Penguins. And this year, you know, um, 36 points, so he's close to 40 points once again. So, I wouldn't be surprised to see him succeed with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Another guy just to mention that needed a change of scenery, like I was talking about before, Ty Smith. You know, uh, it just hasn't been working out for him. He spent most of his time in the AHL. There was a lot of promise with him when he was with the New Jersey Devils, and then it quickly fizzled out, and they just included him in a deal, sending him to Pittsburgh, and he just did nothing there. It was just a miserable time for him. Um, the fans just didn't like him. They didn't like what he brought to the table. And being a former first round pick, 17 overall, there's obviously going to be high expectations. And, it's you can't really call him a bust because he's still 23 years old, but definitely not living up to expectations or the hype. So, there's that as well. And just taking a quick
Yeah,
look at the contracts here, in terms of. Uh, I think Michael Bunting is not there anymore. I'm not
I think
sure.
they did they
Probably
make the
removed
switch
him.
already?
Probably. Um. Oh yeah. Well, yeah, they already made the switch. So Jake Gensel, $4.5 million until the end of the season, where he's going to be a UFA. Um. Just looking at the other guys here. Uh, yeah, they made the switch already. Ty Smith's already added into the system, so he's making league minimum. He's going to be an RFA at the end of this year, so it's going to be up to Carolina to decide whether or not they want to re-sign him. Um,
Is the full extent of Michael Bunting's contract being picked up by Pittsburgh?
we'll take a look
Let's check
here.
that out. I could
So
determine if they could make it some more moves at tomorrow. It's,
it still hasn't been updated in terms of Pittsburgh side, but I'm going to refresh the page here. Okay, so Michael Bunting is being currently paid $4.5 million until the end of 2025-2026, meaning he'll be a UFA in 26-27. Um, so yeah, they have his full contract. There's no retention in terms of Michael Bunting's contract. So he still
yeah,
has another 2 years on that deal. And in terms of the other guys contracts they added. So Ville Koivunen, he has another 2 seasons after this season where he's going to be an RFA in 2026, 2027. And Ponomarev is going to be an RFA in 2025, 2026. Both of them are being paid below $1 million. And yeah, and then like you were talking about before, Cruz Lucius, they own his rights, so they're gonna have to make a decision on whether they give him an entry level contract as well. But is there anything else you would like to add in terms of this trade breakdown?
No, I like the move. I'm gonna say that I like the move on the end of Kyle Dubas. I thought he got a really nice haul considering the circumstances. So he's a GM who continuously shows even even though the Eric Carlson move didn't really fulfill that big of a need. Obviously, Eric Carlson is playing well, but he's got a pair of balls on him. He's shown that also with the Leafs. He could get things done, and this looks like one of his very good moves. I think this move is gonna definitely age well for the organization. Unfortunately for Sid the Kid, do we there's still the fact that the Penguins might not make the playoffs this year. Will they move on from him in the offseason? There's a lot that looms for this organization, I think, beyond this year.
Yeah, Pittsburgh Penguin fans, the floor is yours in terms of this trade breakdown. Who do you guys think? Who do you think is next to be traded? Obviously, you guys need, to stock up in terms of prospects, in terms of picks, and start rebuilding. Um, because this team is very old, and obviously it's going to be a second consecutive year the Pittsburgh Penguins failed to make the playoffs, and now this is an indication that the Pittsburgh Penguins are ready to start making some significant changes and start the rebuild. I don't think we could call this a retool. It's going to be a rebuild. Um, I mean, I would say this offseason, it was probably a retool. Dubas was adding a very important, impactful players like Lars Eller and Eric Carlson, for example. But it didn't work out. So it's time to activate the rebuild. And I think after this move, I think that's the direction that the Pittsburgh Penguins are heading with Kyle Dubas. Um, One last thing I would like to say as well, the Carolina Hurricanes did place Antti Ranta on waivers today, so they activated Anderson, so they have him back. They also put Tony DeAngelo and Brandon Lemieux on waivers as well. So I think that was just facilitating this potential move that ended up happening later on this evening. So I think that totally makes sense, and I wouldn't be surprised if they make another move as well. But that's our analysis, guys. We hope that you guys enjoyed it. We'd like to hear from both fan bases. We'd like to hear from anyone who'd like to give their own take on this trade breakdown. And make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Young Guns podcast. Thank you so much, guys, for watching.